taking a peek at the new infotainment system inside of the Ford Explorer. This is for the 2025 Plus models. If you're looking for a walkthrough of the last gen, check down in the description of this video. So that's Sync 3, but this is actually Android-based. You got a lot more flexibility. It's Google-based, which means you've got all of your different Google apps that are built in as well. It's really solid, and in this video, I'm going to show you everything that you need to know. So along the outside, you've got your current time. There's the home button, your vehicle controls, along with some little icons there as well. So you've essentially got like a quick launch tray. Along the outside, there's a notification bar, your current connection level as well. So clicking there, if there were any options available for notifications, you could show them there. Climate controls are also baked into the screen along the very bottom now. So you can adjust your climate out this way if you'd like to. There's the option for heated seats. Some trim levels of the Explorer also have ventilated seats available, so that would show up. You can adjust your fan speed. You could also have it going to your face feet, some sort of Frankenstein combination of the above. You can adjust out your rear controls there as well. And then you've also got heated passenger side seats too. Now, I know some people aren't crazy about the idea of having their climate controls built into the screen. So you do have the flexibility of using the voice command prompt. If you wanted to be able to adjust your climate, change your fan speed, you can navigate using your voice and so many other things. So it does take a little bit of getting used to, but it is pretty straightforward at the same time. Let's dive in and start off in factory navigation. So factory nav is going to be Google Maps instead. One nice thing is that if you're going somewhere where you might not get any sort of a signal, you could download offline maps as well. You can search for addresses this way just using your Google Assistant. You can do a button press in order to search that way, or you can just use the search bar. If you search for addresses previously, they're going to show up. So if we just hit any of these options, you can start the route. If you wanted to, you could see if there were additional routes to get there. So if you wanted to take one of these other options, you could. Back, and then you can start, or you can add in an additional stop. So in your additional stop, maybe you wanted to stop and get gas first. You can then add it in. There's a phone number that you saw there. So when you go and add in addresses, if there's a phone number available, you'd have the flexibility if your phone was connected to be able to call up instead. We're just going to hit done, and then you can either edit the route or hit the little start icon there. When you hit the start icon, it gives you a tiny little turn-by-turn direction inside of the cluster screen. But one cool thing is that if we use this little selector switch to go up to our map view, watch this. 3, 2, 1, add full map and cluster. Look at this. So cool. So you've now got full map and cluster available. You can exit out, and when you do, you can either remove the next stop or you can fully exit navigation. So it takes a second there. You could hit this little icon if you wanted to avoid things. So you could show 3D buildings. You've got vehicle options, route avoidance options. So if you wanted to avoid things on your route like highways, toll roads, and ferries, you've got that option. Like I mentioned, you could download maps offline as well. You can mute out all notifications, just get turn-by-turn alerts or have voice alerts. You can change up your heading as well. You've got the flexibility of doing a pinch to zoom. And then one cooler thing, because this is Google-based, if you're signed into your Google device on Google Maps on your phone and you've been searching for addresses, you can sign into Google, and that's going to pull any addresses that you've searched for previously, and it'll show it right in the screen. Really, really useful. Hopping back home, there's also your individual profiles. So if you've got multiple people driving the vehicle, I definitely recommend setting yourself up with additional profiles. And one of the nice things is that when you do, you can link it to your Keyfob and even the memory button. So you'd have the option for driver's seat memory. Some versions of the Explorer have a power steering wheel that's linked to memory, so you could set up your seats the way that you'd like, your steering wheel, your side view mirror, and then push and hold either 1, 2, or 3 for it to remember your own personal profile. But you can link all of that info to your Keyfob. So if there are only 2 people driving, you approach the vehicle, unlock, and it'll reset it to whatever your personal settings are. And one step further, you'd also have the flexibility of being able to set a security pin, whether that's a PIN number or any sort of a pattern as well. Very, very useful, like I said, if you've got multiple people driving the vehicle. And next up is going to be adding in a phone. We're going to start off, here we go, look at how quick that is on the iPhone side of things. Love how quick that is. So we're just going to hit the iPhone 14 Pro. There we go, just making sure pins match up, and they do, so pair and pair. We'll take a second. Do you want to allow contacts and favorites to sync up? This is not my car, so I'm going to say no. If it was yours, you could say yes there. It's just a matter of personal preference, and the phone is connected. So you could stop here if you wanted to be able to make phone calls and then stream audio over Bluetooth. So you'd have that flexibility. If we hop into the phone is connected, contacts, favorites, and things like that. None of those are going to show up because I said no, but you've got your dial pad there. One better thing is that the 2025 Plus Explorer is now wireless Apple CarPlay. So you could use CarPlay this way too. So all you have to do, use CarPlay. We're going to start. It is backwards compatible, so you would have the flexibility of using a USB cable to connect to CarPlay, or you could just go wirelessly instead. But if you're running into issues like CarPlay is not setting up properly, check down in the description of this video. I put together a little walkthrough explaining some common CarPlay fixes that you can try. And then on CarPlay, you've got this little button along the very top left, so you can kind of stretch it out a tiny little bit. So you're always going to have the notification icon box along the right-hand side, but it's going to remove these icons temporarily. But you've got your current time, connection and battery level, which map was open last, which audio application was open last, which miscellaneous application was open last, and then you can either go this way if you wanted to go to a little icon view instead, or back to your home screen. The home screen is almost locked into place. So you're always going to have a map, the search box, and which audio you were listening to. But if you had an active calendar notification coming up today, that would essentially be all three boxes instead. That's really as far as you can customize this home screen. But if you go into your settings, you could adjust your driving focus, you can change the appearance, you can adjust the wallpaper. So if you wanted to customize it and make it a little bit more of your own, you'd have the flexibility to be able to do it. Inside of CarPlay, you've got Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze. None of them, unfortunately, have pinch to zoom yet, which is like mind-blowing. I don't understand why, but I personally use Waze. And the big reason why is because if cops are pulling people over, if there are red light cameras and things like that and speed cameras, people mark them off along the map, giving you a heads up. You can also mark things off. So if you notice a cop pulling people over, if there are hazards, block lanes, and things like that, you can get a head up there as well. So it's a matter of preference which way you go, but there are options. Apple CarPlay still does not have the flexibility of doing video playback, but you can listen to all sorts of music apps that are available, podcasts are available here as well. So a lot of options. And then on the steering wheel, so you've got this button as a little voice command prompt. So when you push that, that's essentially going to be the voice command prompt for the vehicle. But one thing that you could also do is a longer push and hold instead, and that's going to activate your Siri assistant, which I think is great. So a short button push on that prompt is going to be for your built-in assistant. A longer push and hold is going to be for your phone assistant, and that's whether you're hooked up over CarPlay or just over Bluetooth instead. You could hit the home icon there to get back to the basic home screen. You can launch back into CarPlay that way. If you go into your car, settings, and then Bluetooth, you've got the vehicle as well, and you can edit out the vehicle name. So if you don't want it to be Ford Explorer, you want it to be Bob's Ride, Sally's Ride, whatever the case may be, you can adjust it that way. You could disconnect from CarPlay and reconnect over Bluetooth. So CarPlay actually technically works over Wi-Fi. So both of them can't be run simultaneously. You can get all of the same features through CarPlay. So you'd be able to make phone calls and then also listen to audio, but you can be connected to Bluetooth or to CarPlay that way. You could disconnect, forget, and there are a few other options. So if you just wanted to be connected for phone calls or for media, you've got that available. But that's how you set up an Apple device inside of the new Ford Explorer. Setting up an Android device is the exact same process. So if you weren't on the screen, again, all you're going to want to do is get to sound and then Bluetooth. Once you're in your Bluetooth settings here, all you're going to do is add in a new device. And from here, on your phone, you're going to be looking for your vehicle. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Don't even need to worry about it. So S9 Plus, PIN numbers match up. So we're going to hit OK and pair, and it'll take a second here. There we go. Do I want to allow access to my contacts and messages? This is not my car, so I'm saying no to that one. And similar to the iPhone side of things, wireless Android Auto, but it's also backwards compatible. You can hit Start Android Auto now, and that's going to start it up. It takes a few seconds. And let's launch in. There we go. So sometimes you will notice that. You just have to hop back into that screen, hit, and then you're set to go. Look at that. Fully connected to Android Auto. Now, one thing is that you don't have a true full screen, so like what we saw on the CarPlay side of things, so this tray will always be there, so will the tray on the right-hand side. But we're fully connected to Android Auto. You've got your current, battery, and your time, maps, and a few other basic apps. you can hit this one, and that's going to be for your phone. And that's very similar to setup to what we saw on the Apple side of things. So on the steering wheel, you can do a short button push to get the main infotainment assistant, or you can do a longer push and hold to get your phone assistant instead. I know they're both Google-based, so it is going to be a bit confusing if you're Android-based, but it's straightforward there. If you hit the map icon, that's going to let you go full screen. And one thing that I love about Android Auto is that Google Maps full pinch to zoom capabilities. You can search for addresses similar to the built-in factory nav. You can adjust things out, like avoiding different things on your route. You can adjust out your audio settings there for your notifications. You can change out your perspective and things like that. You can hit this little button to go back to your split screen, back to full screen maps, but split screen, and then icon view instead is going to bring us to this little view. So you can see there I've got Waze installed. But if you've got Waze installed on your Android and for whatever reason it's not showing up, check down in the description of this video. I've put together a little walkthrough explaining how it works. Then you've got the flexibility to customize the layout. So on the screen, you could go to your settings, Android Auto settings, and you've got a boatload of options. But we're looking for customized launcher. And you'd have the flexibility of being able to move things around. You can adjust things out. Anything with a little check mark next to it, you could either add it in or remove it, but it's not dynamic the same way it was on the iPhone side of things. So in order for the changes you've made here to come into effect, all you need to do is hit the car, go to your settings, go to Bluetooth. You're going to disconnect from Android Auto. You're going to reconnect to Android Auto. And a few seconds in, 3, 2, 1, hopping back home. The changes that we've made here have now come into effect. And then if you, actually, let's go back to our settings here for a second. You go into your settings there. And then Bluetooth, you've got both phones that we've connected. So the Galaxy as well as the Apple device. So you could be either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, not both, but you could do this if you wanted to be connected to the Galaxy for phone calls and the iPhone for audio. So you can do a little mix and match here. So it's either or there, but any of these options here. You can hit this button there if you wanted to disconnect, forget it, etc. Straightforward. And then if you wanted to delete devices, you saw you can disconnect or forget. So if we forget and forget, let's do the same thing on the Apple side of things. And yes, we're going to cancel that out. And 3, 2, 1. We have now set up Android and iPhone devices inside of the Ford Explorer. And from here, hopping back home, next up is going to be audio. And looking at sources, you've got AM, FM, SiriusXM, Bluetooth. If you had a USB stick with MP3s on there, you'd also be able to plug yourself in down low in order to be able to add that in as an additional source. So you've got all sorts of options that are available, and using it is straightforward. So you could do a plus and minus this way if you wanted to be able to adjust out what station you're listening to. You can hit this button if you wanted to be able to manually type in a station. So that's the harder way to do it, I think, because what you could also do is hit the voice command prompt, 97.7 FM.
Okay, streaming 97.7 FM.
So it's just so much easier to do it that way, I think, in my opinion, but that's going to be a matter of preference. From there, you can just hit the little plus icon if you wanted to be able to save it as a preset. It's that simple to do. And then if you had multiple presets that were set up, you could then do a push and hold as well if you wanted to adjust them this way. And then another thing is that once you've got your preset set up, on the steering wheel, you've got the pad on the right side with little arrows. You could then push if you wanted to adjust out to different presets. If you push and hold instead, that's going to act as a little seek button. So it's very quick, so you have to be quick on the draw in order for seek to actively work that way, but it is available. But like I said, just hitting the voice command prompt is such an easier way to do it. You can adjust your volume down this way. You can adjust your volume on the steering wheel with an active mute button as well. From here, you could hop into SiriusXM, and one nice thing, so you see there, all of your presets are going to be different. So if you're on AM, FM, it's essentially going to be grouped together, but if you're on SiriusXM instead, that's going to be its own thing. And then when you're on SiriusXM, along the very top right side, you've got all of your SiriusXM settings. You could hit this in order to adjust out your sound settings, which I'll touch on as we get into our sound. From there, you can also hit this little bell, and you can then get a notification either for the artist or for the song or for the artist. So if you're a big fan of Billie Eilish or that specific song, you can get a notification. So if you're on any radio station, that song or that artist starts playing, you get a notification letting you know. Kind of nice. You can hit this in order to go to your category views, collection, your For You, and then back home from there. You can also pause it out if you'd like, and back home. That's using media. Honestly, it's really straightforward using media inside of the ride. And next up is going to be our little settings icon here. You can open and close the liftgate from the inside if you'd like. You can adjust the ambient light, and there's ambient light in a few different spots inside the vehicle. So you can see there where it's highlighted. So there's along the trim there. You can adjust the color. You can adjust the brightness as well. So you can adjust it out to any color that you'd like with adjusting the brightness level as well. There's hill descent control. Exciting. Seats are available with the option for massage chair seats, which, I mean, how nice is that? You've got 3 unique levels that are available for each of these options too. Now, the massage chair seats are not standard. They are available optionally, but they are so nice. And then you can do an adjusting option here as well for adjusting the lumbar support, high versus low for that support as well. All of your main switches are going to be on the driver's side, or passenger side, it'll be on the right for adjusting most of the cushion itself, but some additional options are available there. You've got options for valet mode, and valet mode essentially lets you enter in a number in order to be able to lock the screen out. So climate control would still work, but your settings would not be available. Basic vehicle status, tire pressure, oil life. You can look at a boatload of additional settings, and this is where things get a little crazy. So starting off with your sound settings, you can adjust the treble, mid-range, and bass. In my opinion, I find that bass in this car up a few points, treble down a few points, with your mid-range up. Something like that gives good audio, but that's going to be a matter of preference. So what I actually recommend you do is play one of your favorite songs and then adjust these until you get that perfect sound for you. You can adjust the balance and fade. So do you want it to be driver focused for the back rows? Do you want it to be front passenger focused, or back to the middle again? Speed compensated volume. As you're going faster or slower, it can automatically adjust the volume. You can adjust volume settings, finally. So you can adjust your ringtone, your phone volume, your prompts, your individual audio, and things like that. So the old Explorer didn't give you the flexibility to do it, so having that option now is great. And let's see here, settings, let's see, we've got those settings. Bluetooth, if you had a phone connected, would give you some additional settings that we saw. There's also cruise control. And cruise control inside of this Explorer actually works a number of different ways. So you've got normal cruise, there's adaptive, and then there's blue cruise, which is full hands-free driving inside of the ride. So the cruise control system in a nutshell, you can control it using the pad on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. So you could toggle the system on this way. From there, you could then set your speed up or down, push and hold up or down as well. So you can push up to go 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time faster or slower, push and hold up to go 10 kilometers an hour faster, 5 miles per hour faster. There's a distance indicator, so it's how close or far are you away from the vehicle that's in front of you. You could hit the cancel button to pause, you can hit the brake to pause, and then you can push in the middle in order to resume your previously set speed. And then there's also a lane keeping system. So with the advanced Blue Cruise system, you do need to have the lane keeping system turned on to work. And then there are a few other options as well. So normal cruise is exactly that. You set it at 100. If the car in front of you slows down, yours will not brake. With adaptive cruise, if the vehicle in front of you slows down, yours will automatically brake. They change lanes, pick up speed. It's going to pick you back up to your previously set speed. And then there's Blue Cruise, which is full hands-free driving. So on highways and interstates, you don't need to have your hands on the steering wheel, on the gas, or brake at all. So your feet are completely off the gas brake. The car does everything. Lane centering is going to keep you perfectly balanced in your lane. In-lane repositioning. Let's say if you're driving, a car comes up next to you and they're riding the outside of their lane, your car is going to shift over a little bit in your lane in order to make sure that there's the less likelihood of a potential accident. Predictive speed assist works a few different ways. So if you're coming up to a bend, the vehicle can automatically slow you down. If the speed drops from, let's say, 100 down to 80, or it increases from 80 to 100, it can automatically adjust your speed on the fly. And then you can also have it based off of a tolerance level. So you're okay with going over or under the speed limit that way. But if you want to see the cruise control system in action, check down in the description for a walkthrough. The lane keeping system works 3 different ways. So you have to toggle the system on in the steering wheel, hitting that button there to do it. But 3 different options. So there's an alert. So if you start to veer over into another lane without signaling, you get a little bit of a steering wheel shake, almost like you're running over rumble pavement. The aid is going to nudge you back into your lane, and then the alert and the aid will do both. From there, see a speed limit assist. Do you want to get a speed warning? Yay, nay. Blind spot system, I think, is always a useful one. So if somebody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, you'll get a little highlight there letting you know. Cross traffic alert, when you go to reverse, if somebody's coming perpendicular, so from the left or the right, it can let you know of a potential collision. If you're backing up, it can automatically brake for you as well if there's a potential collision. Driver alert, if you start to veer over into another lane too many times without signaling, eventually it's going to tell you that you should take a break, but you could disable that one if you wanted to. 30-minute max idle, so after 30 minutes, the car is going to turn off. Rear occupant alert, so if you've opened up the back doors, go to turn the car off, it's going to beep at you to let you know to check the back seats. You can get an alert and a horn, alert, nothing happens, and then you can also say if there's a child seat installed. Lighting, auto high beams. The high beams in general are kind of an interesting thing. So down by your left knee, you've got a series of different options available for your lights. So it's either off, parking, auto, or headlamp mode. So in the auto lamp mode, if the vehicle recognizes that the high beams are needed, it's going to flip them on for you automatically. If somebody's oncoming, it's going to dim them or turn them off before turning them right back on again. If you want to permanently lock your high beams out, you just have to be in the bottom mode, so your headlamp mode there. And when you're in headlamp mode, you could push away to turn your high beams on, pull towards you in order to turn the high beams off. But with auto high beams, that's the one that's automatically going to turn them on or off, depending on how dark it is outside. Lamp delay, when you go to lock the vehicle, do the lamps just turn off or do they stay on for up to 120 seconds? Easy entry exit, so with power seats, seat adjustment, when you go to turn the vehicle off, it's going to lower the seat and back it up for you to get in and out of the vehicle a little bit easier. Remote start setup, so you've got the flexibility of remote starting on the Keyfob or using the Ford Pass app on your phone. If you want to know how to set up the Ford Pass app, check down in the description of the video. But you can toggle off remote start completely. When you remote start, is it based off of the vehicle's last setting, or do you want the car to determine what the climate should be? Do you want the heated or ventilated seats or heated steering wheel to come on automatically? And then how long do you want the remote start to last? So either 5, 10, or 15 minutes. Windows available as well. So you could remote open the windows. Let's hop outside and I'll show you how these things work. So we're going to go 1, 2, and hold. Down the windows go. You can lock to push it to pause it part way and then double push again in order to continue the process. So that is a really cool setting. I wish that it was window up as well, but at least you could vent the car out just in case grandma's had some prune juice. Courtesy wipe, if you've got your wipers going, it's going to wait until the end of the cycle. So if you've gone and hit your windshield wiper fluid, and then at the end of the cycle, it's going to go one more time to get rid of any excess liquid. Rain sensing, straightforward, rear wiper when in reverse. So if you've got your wipers going, put yourself into reverse, it's going to turn on the rear wipers for you. Power liftgate, you could turn it into a manual mode so it wouldn't be power up. Locks, let's see, remote unlock is the big one here. So when you go to unlock using the key fob, do all doors become unlocked, or is it just the driver's door? And then just feedbacks and things like that, so nothing exciting. Mirrors with auto fold, so when you go to lock the vehicle, do the mirrors automatically fold in? Languages, since this is Google-based, there are a boatload of options, but these are also going to be region-specific. There's text-to-speech that's available. You can adjust out all of your measurement units too, so you can adjust out to either Celsius or Fahrenheit. Along the very bottom there, you can see that adjust. For your measurement units, you can adjust out to either liters per 100, miles per gallon, and you can see that adjusting on the very bottom of the cluster screen. Back out, tire pressure, do you want to be in PSI or KPA? You can adjust the timeout this way. So time automatic is what I'd recommend unless you live somewhere where you straddle a time zone and you're constantly finding it flips you between one or the other time zone. You could permanently lock it out to whatever time zone that you'd like. If you wanted to use that military time instead, so 12 versus 24-hour mode, you could. This is an Android device, so you've got the flexibility of being able to adjust out your settings there. So look at storage to see what's available. There's basic about information to see what build you're currently on. And big one here, I guess, would be reset options. So if the vehicle is giving you issues, you could do a full factory reset, basic connectivity options and things like that. You can do a soft reboot of the screen as well. I'll show you that one towards the end of the video. And that's going to be the basics of your vehicle settings there. Yeah, that's it. Some basic system info, which we've seen, your profile information, where you can adjust your individual profile name. You could select an individual avatar there if you'd like. You can link your profile, see basic security information, and that's where you're going if you wanted to add in a profile lock for either pattern pin or a password instead. So big benefit there is that people, when they come into your vehicle, you have to enter in a pin in order to access your individual profile. Display information, so the beep that we're getting, if that drives you nuts, you can toggle it off. You've got your touchscreen brightness there, mode, there are 3 options available. So right now it's in the light mode. You can have it automatically lock out to the dark instead, permanently lock out, or permanently lock it out to the light mode. But what's going to happen in the auto mode, the vehicle determines how bright it is outside and it flips you from one or the other automatically. Themes are available too. They're pretty subtle, but you do have the flexibility of being able to adjust out into different themes as well. And where you're really going to notice the theme adjustment is actually going to be inside of the cluster screen. So you can see there are some subtle changes that come as you switch between the different options. So you can customize it a tiny bit, which is nice. Not as much as I'd like to see, but that's available. If you find that the screen's too much, you can hit calming screen there instead. And then back home in order to get back again. And if we go into our display, I think that was it there. Yeah, calming screen. There's network information, nothing exciting. 911 assist. So you do need to have your phone connected for that to work. And that's where if you get into a serious accident, it'll automatically dial 911. You've got your voice assistant, and you've got the flexibility of adjusting so many things. So then rather than hitting the voice command prompt on the steering wheel, you could say, "Hey Google," and you'd be able to get the system to be able to adjust different things out for you that way. Basic location information. With location information, if you don't want the vehicle to be able to determine your location and things like that, you could toggle these things off. Some apps do require your location in order to work, and then you can adjust out whether or not you get notifications for any of these options. Basic privacy information, so you're essentially adjusting your app data info there that's shared. Security info, do you want to adjust out and either clear credentials? Do you want to have a profile lock? You can add in closed captions, basic info for your apps. There's some Google options here too. There is an ads manager on the device because it's Google based, but I personally have never seen any ads in any Ford Lincoln vehicle or any screen that has Google based. So it's troubling that it's there, but I wouldn't really worry about it as of yet. Next up is going to be all of your different icons here. And then you've got the flexibility. So if you just do a push and hold, you can adjust out the layout if you'd like to. But you've got a hot button press essentially. This is a quick launch tray for Maps, Play Store. Play Store is cool because when you sign in, you'd be able to download so many apps, including different games. So if you wanted to play games in the screen, you've got that flexibility. One cooler thing is that you can also hook up a controller over Bluetooth if you wanted to play games that way instead, strictly when you're parked, because you've got the flexibility of also watching YouTube videos, but it's strictly when you're parked because the second you switch into drive, it's not going to work. So if you wanted to, you'd be able to search for different options here and click through. And then when you're parked, you'd have the flexibility. Adjusting gears when you're in an automatic transmission, whether that's a car, truck, or SUV, is a very straightforward process. Really cool. So this is actually a video on paddle shifting in manual mode. So if you wanted to know how to use paddle shifters, that's available. But it's really cool. Like I said, the second you get out of a park, you're not able to use the system. But I really like that full YouTube video playback is now available here. You've got your, like I said, your quick launch tray with different options, including towing. So if you need an aid to help you out with your trailer connection, that's available as an option. So if you've never added in a trailer before, it can talk you through the process. There's a fully digital owner's manual too. So if you're getting weird messages or weird icons in your cluster screen, you can do a visual search in order to see different options that are available. If the infotainment system's ever giving you problems, like factory navigation's not working properly, you can't connect to Android or iPhone devices, or there's just problems going on, you can easily do a reset. So through your settings, if you want to, you can go System, and then reset options to do a full factory reboot. That's probably not the best way to do it though, because there's also the option for a soft reboot. In order to soft reboot, you're gonna hit the volume button. So you're gonna press and hold the volume button while you push and hold the right seek button. So you're gonna do that for about 10 seconds or so. So you're just gonna hang on to both. So after about 10 seconds, you then let go. Everything just goes blank. So the cluster screen and the infotainment screen are both blank. And after about 10 seconds or so, it's going to launch everything back up again. And that's how you do the reboot instead of the full factory reset. But that's everything that you need to know about the new infotainment system inside of the Ford Explorer.